Earlier this year, a lot of Lions fans and some NFL analysts had expressed extreme confidence and trust in what the Lions were doing and thought they could do something spectacular this year. However, though, after one extremely bad loss against the Baltimore Ravens, it seems that confidence has now been shaken. The question is, though, are people right to be concerned? We're going to talk about it in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned. It started with an owner who had a last name fans despised, hiring a coach that the experts thought was crazy.
But I got a plan, I swear to you.
Who traded for a QB that was said to be washed up. They said the Detroit Lions would never amount to anything, that it would always be the same old Lions. But this team, our team, has a new identity, defined and expressed by the crazy head coach.
Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes, I will beat your ass.
Led by the QB that nobody thought was good. Motor City Mania is in full swing and ready to start. So join the show and be prepared for kneecap biting, because Motor City Mania starts right now. Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM, Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and we're diving in right now. As always, I just want to say to those that are coming back to the show, thank you all for your review, thank you all returning, thank you all for everything that you do, your support, your patronage. So glad to have you back. And to the newcomers that are coming into the show for the first time, thank you all for giving my show a shot. Hopefully you guys like the content, and hopefully I gain your subscription if I've earned and deserved it. And with that, I just want to say to everybody, God bless, and let's dive into the content. So, let's think about this, folks. Let's actually think about this truly, logically, rationally. When it comes to what the Detroit Lions have done this year, the Lions have been, again, one of those teams that has just captured a lot of people's minds, has got a lot of attention, has gotten a lot of support, a lot of hype, and again, the Lions have earned this. They've earned everything that they've gotten. I know some people still will want to debate this. I know some people still want to contend this, but let's be fair and honest. The Lions have earned everything that they've got this year because of everything that they've done prior to and going into where we're at right now. But as the age-old sayings go, trust is not given, it's earned. And to even further expand upon that, trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. I mean, you have to understand something here. We as humans are very, very hard when it comes to the whole trustworthy factor, because it is something that, again, trust is very, very fragile. It takes a long, long time to build, and it takes literally seconds for it just to completely evaporate, hence the reason for the saying. And you have to think about it here, folks. The Lions are a team that, yeah, everyone was starting to trust in them. Everyone was starting to believe in them. But again, you have to think about it from some kind of a perspective for these people that are now having their confidence shaken a little bit. Is that you have to think about how the Lions got to this point. And again, you take a look at the Lions of the past, the last, 20-something years, almost 30 years, the Lions have not been a very trustworthy team. And that is coming with absolute all the love I can muster as a Lions fan, because we have to be fair, we have to be honest with ourselves here. The only trustworthy factor that the Lions had for 20-something years was that we were likely going to lose. That was the only thing you could trust about the Lions, is that we would likely lose. Hence the reason why from like the early 2000s all the way up to 2021, the SOL mindset and SOL era was very much alive, very much well, and pretty much dominated the total pretty much realm of thinking and ideology that surrounded the Detroit Lions. It didn't even matter with the freaking Lions fans and the SOL Lions fans. It mattered also with the fact of national media perception, the analysts, like it was everywhere. Pretty much the only thing that was trustworthy about the Lions is that we were going to lose more often than not. And so that is something that a lot of people had to kind of get over. They had to change their mindset. They had to rewrite, or how should I say, reprogram their internal hard drive, if you will, to see the Lions in a different perspective than what had been the standard norm for 20-something years. And so that's why we're having this conversation, is because now that the Lions have actually started to win, a lot of people had started expressing that confidence, that trust, that faith in the Lions. But it's like, listen, after that Baltimore Ravens game, though, it completely just started shattering for people. It just went completely kaflooey. And you have to think about it, though. How the Lions got to that point where it was at a good point, and then it kind of got a little bit shooken, and people started pretty much getting all these ideas about maybe the Lions aren't that good. So we have to think about it here. When we think about how this whole thing started, changing the perception of the Lions, it goes back to the arrival of three main characters, and that's Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, and Brad Holmes. Obviously, there are a lot of other people as well, such as Sheila, such as also Chris Spielman, and a bunch of other people. Barry Sanders also helping out. I'm just talking about the three main characters. I guess you could also include Sheila in there because she was pretty much paramount to getting Campbell and Holmes in there, but I'm trying to keep things pretty simplified here. But if you think about it, with the arrival of all of these characters that I'm talking about here, the Lions started to develop a trust factor based upon three main things. And that was the ideology of grit, hard work, and never say die. Pretty much never quit. This is pretty much what this Lions new framework, this new ideology, this new perception is all built and based upon. This gritty, hard work mindset. We're not going to quit. We're not going to give up. We are going to go until the very end. And if you think about it, this is a mindset that ever since Campbell walked in the door, Holmes walked in the door, Sheila took over, Jared Goff became the quarterback, this is an ideology that's been built up and built up and built up to where it is right now. But you have to think about something else. Up until week 9 of last year, we still hadn't really changed a whole lot as far as the win-loss column. Because again, 2021, we were 3-13-1. And before week 9 of last year, we were 1-6, something like that. It was very, very hard for people to say, hey, the Lions have truly changed. Because realistically, nothing had changed. We still weren't winning a lot of games. We were coming close, but that was about it. But then week 9 hits, and then everything starts turning around. That's when we started developing this other trait, this other thing that we could also put our hat on, and that is people started embracing the fact that the Lions program, the Lions team, was starting to win. We had developed that winner trait because it was like, hey, the Lions are winning games. And it's like, listen, we're not just barely eking by. We're not just barely beating teams that we're supposed to beat. No, we're actually playing very competitive football, and we're putting it all together. And that whole ideology, that trait of winner, was at least temporarily embraced by not only the Lions fans, most of them, and also by the national media pundits. But here's the thing, kind of catching us all back up to where we are right now. With this loss against the Baltimore Ravens, that trust, that whole thing that the Lions had built up over the last, couple of weeks, almost a year at this point, has completely shattered for some people. And like I said, at the very least, it's been shaken. And here's what I mean by this. You have to think about how things have changed for some Lions fans. Because again, I'm on all social media platforms I can possibly get my hands on. I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter. I have so many different ways that I get in touch with people and I listen to what Lions fans are saying. And it's always, I wouldn't say funny, but it's very interesting and very telling how quickly this fan base can turn around one way or the other. And this is what I mean. When you think about it, up and about a year ago, fans used to sing the praises of GM Brad Holmes like he could do no wrong. Everybody was talking about how he was a genius, he was one of the next top NFL GMs, and everybody was saying, man, this guy knows what he's doing. He's built this Lions program, he's built it perfectly, blah, 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 blah. It was just on repeat everywhere you go. But now, Lions fans, at least some of them, have started to protest what Holmes has done as far as his team building strategy. And what I specifically mean is this. Again, when you think about how Brad Holmes came to Detroit, he came in and he started building the team through the draft, and he built it perfectly. Brad Holmes' draft strategy has been damn near perfect since the moment word go. But you have to think about it. Now that the Lions are starting to have problems as far as, getting pressure on the quarterback and all these other things that we've been hearing about the defense, we're now starting to hear a lot of people grumbling about the fact they're like, man, I'm so irritated, I'm so angry that freaking Brad Holmes didn't draft Jalen Carter because Jalen Carter's been doing pretty good with the Eagles. And they're like, man, I really wanted Jalen Carter. I still want Jalen Carter. And it's like, listen, folks, Jalen Carter, it was one of those things where it's like, listen, you either got Jalen Carter or you weren't going to get the other players that we drafted. Because here's the thing, that trade that the Lions made with the Cardinals to move back set up everything else to where the Lions could then draft the likes of Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, and all those other players that we got. So it's like, listen, I would much still rather have Sam Laporta and Brian Branch because those guys together are going to be very special players as well versus just getting Jalen Carter. Because again, you have to consider, without Sam Laporta, we're not having the same kind of production on offense that we have. Without Brian Branch, we don't have that really sensational rookie presence in the defensive backfield. So for me, it's like, listen, do you really want to forgo all that extra talent that we got with the trade for one guy that, again, I'm still not sold on the attitude problems. I'm still not sold on everything else that was a concern prior to the draft. Yes, he's looked good in his rookie year, but again, it's only been 7 games, folks. It's like I'm not willing to say, yeah, we shouldn't have made that trade. I'm still very much for it. But it's not even that as well. It's also taking a look at the fact that now Lions fans are getting peeved off with Brad Holmes and they're getting anxious and disappointed at the possibility that Brad Holmes might not make a trade at the trade deadline because they really want to see Brad Holmes make a trade. And it's like, listen, that's not how Brad Holmes has built this roster. Brad Holmes has not done it by making swing for the fence trades. He's not done it by making these big splash signings or these big splash trades. He's done it by economically, conservatively building this team up to where it's like, listen, all the parts together, the sum of the total works together rather than just having a couple of star players and then you're just kind of filling it in with these other average to subpar players. It's like, listen, he wants a complete roster where everything is on equal footing rather than just having 1, 2, maybe 3-star players. And the reason I know this is because, again, think about how Lions teams of the past used to be. Oh, that's right. When the Lions were last a really good team, we had that build-up. We had that kind of framework because, that's right. We had Matthew Stafford, Calvin Johnson, and Ndamukong Suh. And those 3 guys took almost 65-70% of our cap space back in those days. It's much more smart to go the route that Brad Holmes is doing right now, building the entire team up, rather than just having a couple of star players and then just having an average team surrounding them. That doesn't work nearly as well. But again, it's not just the trading for star players right now before the trade deadline. There are other fans that are upset about the fact that Brad Holmes has not signed certain players that they wanted him to sign, or the fact that he hasn't made a big splash signing either in free agency as well. And it's like, listen, I trust Brad Holmes because the results are out there. The proof is in the pudding. So for me, it's like, listen, I like what I see with Brad Holmes because he's actually taking a very, very good, straightforward, smart perspective about how to build a roster rather than trying to build one of instant success that's only going to work for maybe a year or 2. But it doesn't just stop with freaking, Brad Holmes. Now we've got fans that a week or 2 ago that were singing the praises of Jared Goff as a top 5 QB or as an MVP candidate. And you also had the same thing from the NFL pundits and the analysts. They were all saying the same thing about Jared Goff. Like, hey, Jared Goff is an MVP candidate. He's a top 5 quarterback. I have always said this about him. But now it's like after this bad game against the Ravens where everybody sucked, now we're having fans that are rolling out again. They're like, oh man, can't wait to start Hendon Hooker. Oh man, Jared Goff, he's just a mid QB. We can't win with him, blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, we've gone through this nonsense more times than I care to recollect. But it's like, wait a minute here. Let's back up here. Even with the bad game that Jared Goff had against the Baltimore Ravens, Jared Goff is still top 5 to top 10 in every single passing category that is out there according to ESPN. So it's like, listen, one bad game should not at all discredit Jared Goff's total body of work with the Detroit Lions. It's like, listen, teams have bad games, quarterbacks have bad games. It's part of being in the damn NFL. Not everybody is going to freaking win 30, 40 games in a row like in college and they establish a freaking program dynasty. That's not how it works. Even the best teams in the NFL still have bad days, and same thing for best players. But again, we're still talking about how Lions fans and national pundits, some of them, have had their trust shaken, have had their trust shattered. And for me, it's just kind of, this just leads to the whole central point, kind of like refocusing this back in a little bit. The real question of the matter is one bad loss a reason to begin to question everything, or more specifically, the most crucial components of how a team is built, or how a team operates, rather? And here's what I'm going to say. I don't think so. And here's the reason why. Let's think about this truly. Let's think about how this whole thing got started. Because the biggest point of contention for some Lions fans and the national media pundits is this: the embarrassing loss that the Lions had against the Ravens. And they're like, oh man, the Lions, they go up against this really good team. They weren't ready to play. Maybe they're not ever going to be ready to play. Maybe they don't have the talent to play, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, here, back up a moment, folks. Let's just think about recent history, like within the last week or two. Did or did not the 49ers lose two straight games in a row to both the Cleveland Browns and to the Minnesota Vikings? Yeah, I don't hear anybody saying that the freaking 49ers are in panic mode. I don't hear anybody saying that, hey, they've all of a sudden lost trust in Kyle Shanahan and the Niners. I don't hear that anywhere. Then let's think about this. Let's think about some of the Super Bowl champions that have won over the last couple of years. I seem to recall that the Rams got freaking shellacked by the 49ers in 2021. They lost 31-10. Yet the Rams went on and won the Super Bowl that year. Let's go back to 2020. The Bucs lost to the New Orleans Saints 38-3. And they still went on to win the Super Bowl later in the year. 2018, the New England Patriots, they lost to us, the Detroit Lions, on our home turf, 26-10. To 2018, the Lions weren't really doing much of anything, yet, the Patriots went on and won the Super Bowl that year. Same thing happened in 2016. The freaking Patriots lost to the Bills 16-0. All four of those teams that I just mentioned, like I said, they all lost those games in horrible fashion, and yet they still went to the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying that the Lions are going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not even saying the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl. All I'm simply trying to say is this: one damn game does not change how a whole season goes about its business. Again, as the saying goes, this is a marathon, this is not a race. So again, when you think about this, you have to keep things in perspective to at least a certain degree when you're looking at the total picture of a season. Yes, the Lions losing against the Ravens, that was bad. But that should not be the totality of the season in and of itself. But again, you have to think about it even further. Again, because I like to go way, way in depth with all this stuff. It's kind of like a bit of a pet peeve of mine. Some people like it, some people don't. But it's kind of the way I do things. But think about it this way, folks. Go back to the Rams like I was talking about, 2021. After the Rams lost that game against the Niners, they won their next 5 of 7 before they went into the playoffs. And like I said, went and won the Super Bowl. In 2020, the Bucs, after losing to the Saints 38-3, again, won their next 5 of 7. In 2018, the Pats, after they lost to the Lions 26-10, they only lost 3 more games for the rest of the year, finishing with 12-4. And oh, by the way, think about this on top of that. After they lost to the Lions, they rattled off 6 straight wins in a row. And then you go back to 2016 with the Patriots. After losing to the Bills, the Patriots would only lose 1 more time for the rest of the year, finishing with a record of 14-2. My whole point is, like I just said, one game is not the totality of what happens during a season. It's not even close. So, that's why I'm saying a bad loss is by no means to throw away a season or stop trusting a team. Again, it's no reason to, as they would say, throw out the baby and the bathwater. It's like, listen, understand, it was a bad game, but let's cool our jets here. Let's not completely lose our heads just yet. Then, let's consider this fact as well. There's another reason why I think the Lions fans that are starting to question the team really kind of need to back off a little bit. There are certain aspects I'm okay with questioning, but not the team not the team in a totality. Here's the other thing I want to point out here. Last year, the Lions finished 9-8, right? They were 1 game removed from getting into the playoffs. They nearly made the playoffs in the second year of a rebuild. That's pretty unheard of for most teams. For most teams, when they do a rebuild, it takes them about 3 or 4 years before they actually start being competitive and actually can make a playoff push. But yet the Lions did it in year 2, and that was after going 3-13-1 the previous year. So think about it. Think about that just in that perspective. But also think about this. The Lions have also built this roster behind a championship caliber offense because, again, this is a championship caliber offense. When you have a top 10, top 5 offense, that's championship caliber. But what's also a championship caliber thing with this roster is the mindset that this roster has. Because think about this. Where does the mindset come from? Like I said earlier, the grit, the hard work, the never say die attitude. That comes from Dan Campbell. Where did Dan Campbell get his mindset from? He got it from Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells is one of the best head coaches that's ever coached in the NFL, because not only was he successful as a head coach, but all the guys that fall from his tree have been extremely successful in the NFL. And it's been proven multiple times. There have been multiple head coaches that have come from Parcells' head coaching tree that have done very, very well. So again, it's a championship-tested mindset because Bill Parcells' mindset has been proven to work. Just like how this Lions offense has been proven to work and why it does what it does. The defense, still getting there, and I'm going to leave it at that. Now, kind of getting towards the end of this here really quickly. I'm trying to wrap it up here. But also think about this. This team is also built with not only the right mindset, but the right attitude. Think about it. Every time we hear Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Jared Goff, any leader with the team talk, they all say the exact same thing. Everything is earned. There are no free rides and nothing is given just because, hey, you know what? You were drafted in the first or second round or whatever. You are some big name player. You have to earn it. And likewise, think about it from this perspective. Any time that the Lions have encountered any sort of adversity in the past, they take it on the chin and like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we got our ass kicked, but you know what? We're going to go right back to work. We're going to put our nose to the grindstone, and we're not going to make excuses. And it doesn't matter if it's the coaches or the players. It doesn't matter. The attitude is a resilient one, and likewise, so is the team, because they're not going to let any one thing or any certain situation derail them from their focus, which is a very simple one. We're here to win, we're here to work, and we're going to get the job done. That is what Dan Campbell has instilled in this team, and the team has bought it hook, line, and sinker, and I am so thankful that they have. And then finally, like I've been saying throughout this entire process, the proof is in the damn pudding, folks, because think about it. Despite some disgruntled fans' opinions opposite of this whole process, think about it. The Lions front office and team have proven their success and proven their trustworthiness. Again, think about this, folks. Again, I know for some people, they want to see results like, oh, playoff wins. Oh, we want to go to Super Bowls, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, okay here, folks. Rome was not built in a day. You got to think about this in baby steps. But let's think about this. This front office and this team has proven its trustworthiness, has proven that people should have faith in it by doing just some of these things that I'm about to mention. One, think about this. The last 3 primetime games that the Lions have had, they've all won them. Oh, and by the way, all 3 of those primetime games have been on the road. Number 2, over the last 17 games that we've played, we've won 13 out of those 17 games. So again, a very, very good track record of winning consistently. Think about this as well. Up until this last game that we just had against the Ravens, we had a streak of scoring 20-plus points or more on offense for 15 straight games. That's the longest streak in NFL history. It's no longer the longest active streak, but it's the longest streak in NFL history. Then, think about this. Also, the Lions, in terms of their road games, since week 9 of last year, when the Lions really started putting it all together, started winning those games, on the road, the most difficult place for most teams to play, the Lions are 7-2 in road games since week 9 of last year. That's also something to take into consideration. And then, as I've said multiple times on this channel, we've had a top 5, top 10 offense for going on 2 straight years running. That's also very difficult to do. And then, think about this. The Lions have been doing so well recently that even with the bad loss against the Ravens, Dan Campbell is still considered the front runner for freaking head coach of the year betting. And then again, like I said, the Lions nearly made the playoffs last year, and they're almost certain to make the playoffs this year. So when you think about everything that I have presented, everything that I've talked about from the logical, reasonable, rationale perspective that I like to come from, there are plenty of reasons as to why people should continue to trust the Lions as being potential contenders. Because it's like, listen, even with the potential weaknesses that we have, such as, Aaron Glenn on the defense, as far as the defensive coordinator, such as different types of positions on said defense, and a couple of other things, to abandon or question the total team strategy, whether it's the building strategy, whether it's the team's mindset and attitude, whether it's how this team goes about its business, to do that would just be absolutely ridiculous and foolhardy, because think about it. That whole process, that whole mindset, that attitude, that building strategy that I'm talking about was what got the Lions here in the first damn place. And to question that all just because, hey, you know what? We're a little disgruntled right now because we don't like what we saw last week, that's completely foolhardy in my opinion. It's like, listen, I'm not throwing out everything that I've seen just because of one damn bad game. That is absolute foolishness talking there, and I won't stand for it. But anyway, I figured I wanted to make this episode because, again, I've heard a lot of Lions fans are like, listen, the Lions are who we thought they were. They've not been doing this. They're a paper tiger. And I've heard it from other people. It's like, listen, freaking slam on the brakes, folks. There's no reason to start panicking. There's no reason not to have faith in our Lions. The Lions are in good hands with Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Sheila, Chris Spielman, the whole works. I'm not worried. Neither should you. But anyway, I figured I'd make this episode to try and hopefully calm some people down. I sincerely doubt it's going to work or have the same effect of what I'm thinking it will. But again, I like to put my feelings out there because I feel that it's a good thing to let other people know, hey, don't worry. We're in good hands. But with that having been said, I think I'm going to end the episode here, and I just want to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If by chance you liked what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to do one of these three things or all three of them. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you've not yet had a chance to do so, first and foremost, I just want to encourage y'all, please subscribe. It helps me out immensely. But also, after you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification icon that goes along with it so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but let's make sure we turn the bell notification icon on so that way, whenever I push out something, you guys are always instantaneous to know exactly when it comes out. I also encourage y'all, please, to help the channel grow even more, share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. Let's keep help the channel growing. Let's keep getting people in here so we can have really great discussions about not only the Detroit Lions, but also about football in general. And with that, I just want to again say thank you all for your view. Thank you all for your time, your support, your patronage. Hopefully I gained your subscription. And with that, I just want to say God bless. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.